Ever dealt with a loan shark before, or for that matter, anyone who charges excessively high interest? And by that, I don't just mean double digit interest. We're talking 30, 40, 50, good Lord, whatever percentage. Then consider yourself fortunate and take this as a public service announcement. You don't want to. It's a absolutely wretched experience. And I've met more than enough people who are stuck in these situations. Now, the good thing is, like anything else, we can get them out of it. But they come with their own special way of having to deal with these guys because unlike banks, they don't have the same level of scrutiny, the same regulations, and when you're dealing with people, go figure, people take things personally. And when people take things personally, they aren't really thinking rationally. So I guess this is my attempt to try to give people a few tips. So my first recommendation when it comes to dealing with loan sharks, whether it's individuals or just companies that charge excessively high interest, is don't get involved with them. Okay, that's the first tip. You may say, well, that's not very helpful. I'm already in. I understand, but for those of you entertaining the option, unless someone is literally going to die unless you get this money in the next 10 minutes, I don't recommend it. Okay? It's a surefire way to be miserable for the rest of your life. And if you do the basic math, I mean, my God, what these guys are making on you is just abhorrent. So if you're already in, though, what do you do? Well, first thing you need to know is all creditors, okay, all lenders are beholden to the same rules. Nobody is special. Okay, so you need to know that if a lender tells you, well, if I give you this money, you can't go bankrupt. Just so you know, and what you just signed says you can't go bankrupt. No, you can't do that. They may oppose your discharge if you go bankrupt. They may try to stop you, but a creditor can't oppose when someone goes bankrupt. All right. And you're in bankruptcy for 9, 21, 24, 36 months, depending on whether you've been bankrupt before and how much money you make. That's what determines your time in bankruptcy. Creditors can do what's known as opposing your discharge. When it comes time for you to be released from bankruptcy, they can say, whoa, hang on a second. We don't think this guy should be released. Now, they can't just oppose you because they don't like you. Okay, they need a compelling reason. The most common would be something like fraud or misuse of funds. For example, whenever someone tells me they have a big loan with, say, Fairstone or Easy Financial, just so you know, Fairstone's interest rate last time I looked was 36.99. That's okay. They're pretty good compared to Easy Financial, who's 47.99, or is it 46.99? I can't remember. Doesn't matter. Not really. Okay, whenever someone has one of these hefty interest loans, my first question is, when did you get the loan? Because if you got the loan 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago, 2 years, fine. That's fine. Chances are the money's gone. Okay, you used it. And whether it's right or wrong or a good reason or not a good reason, it's done. There's nothing you can do, and we may as well proceed. But every now and then someone will tell me, like, I got the money like 3 weeks ago. And I'll say, okay, look. And before I can even start to explain, they'll say, look, I needed the money. I was desperate. I didn't even look at the terms. I just signed the deal, and now I realize it's 47% interest, and what am I going to... And I'll say, I understand that. But put yourself in the lender's seat, okay? They're going to say, let me get this straight. I loaned you $10,000 3 weeks ago. Where's the money? What did you do with it? And if you say, well, I sent it, to the Philippines to help my cousin buy a kidney, well, they may care, they may not care. But you better have a good reason. And it's a risk, okay? It's something to keep in mind. In the case of bankruptcy, they can oppose your discharge. In the case of a proposal, they can vote against your proposal, all right? But so the first thing I'll say to people is, when did you borrow this money? Because I'm looking for red flags and reasons why the creditor could come back on you. So any creditor can come back on you, but you need to know you can still include them in an insolvency proceedings. The second thing is, as I mentioned in a previous video, when you file a proposal or a bankruptcy, the stay of proceedings goes into place and these creditors have to leave you alone. Now that applies to everyone. The problem with high interest lenders, especially personal ones, the guys you meet at Tim Hortons who loan you money and you don't even know if they have an office or anything, these guys are not only unbelievably dishonest, okay, as a general rule, they're also incredibly stupid and ignorant. They don't know a lot of anything. All they know is they have money, and if they lend it at really high interest, they can make a lot of money if they threaten you. They are beholden to the same rules, okay? Now, a lot of them think, well, I'm not a bank. I'm not an institution. No, that doesn't count. I'm different. No, they're not. Okay, they're not. And that kind of leads to rule 2A, so to speak, which is you need to understand these guys are full of shit. Okay, and anything they're telling you is most likely a lie. All right, and they will say anything to get their money back. Understandably so. They want the money back. And look, you borrowed the money, you do owe them, but you need to understand the rules apply to them too. Now, it's a little more difficult to get these guys off your back because whereas the banks, if the banks overstep their bounds, they can face serious consequences. In this case, some guy who loaned you money, it's a little tougher. You can't threaten him with regulations. There's no ministry to appeal to. There's no governing body or ombudsman or anyone to go to. You're just dealing with some jerk, okay, who loaned you money. And unfortunately, this jerk thinks the rules don't apply to him, and he'll just keep bugging you and bugging you and bugging you. So what do? Well, there's different gradients here. Did he show up at your house? Because if he did, you tell him to get lost. Okay? Now, you may say, well, it's that easy. Yeah, it is that easy. Tell him to F off. He doesn't belong there. Slam the door in his face and tell him to go away. And if he doesn't go away, you call the cops. Now, I tell this to people, and they're stunned. They're like, well, I can't do that. And I look at them like, why not? Is he harassing you? Is he threatening you? Is he banging on the door, causing a disturbance? Did he get in the way of your child as your child came home from school? Call the freaking cops. This is not difficult, guys. Okay, it's called 911. This man is harassing me and he won't go away. Watch how fast they run. Okay? The reason they don't run in a lot of cases is inexplicably people won't call the police. It's amazing. And I've even had people say, well, they threatened this, they threatened that. I'm like, do you know how to dial 911? Oh, I can't do that, guys. Part of being in a new country is figuring out the rules. And one of the rules here is if someone's threatening you physically, or they're intimidating you, or they're getting in your face and they're in your place, you call the cops. And the cops come and say, you do that again, we're sending you to jail. Okay? It really is that simple. Do it. Just do it. Okay? Don't put up with any threats. Now, the second thing these guys will do, when you get these loans, even with the institutions, you may have noticed that they asked you for references. References because we want to make sure you're a fine and upstanding individual. That's not why they get the references, guys. Who are references? References are your friends, your family, and coworkers, also known as people you really don't want knowing that you owe money. In other words, they get these names so they can embarrass the living crap out of you. Okay? If they call you and you ignore them, that's fine. I'll call your coworker and say, hey, we're trying to find Terry. She owes us a lot of money and hasn't paid in 2 months. Have you seen Terry? We're just a little concerned about her. Yeah, they know what they're doing. That, guys, the way to stop that is to file, okay, to get a move on and do your filing. And you may say, but what if they continue doing it? Some of them do. Okay, again, this is where the law comes into play. The first thing is I tell people, now, this is going to sound like a lot of work, but it's not, and it's worth it. Keep a diary of what these guys do. When they call you, when they contact you, how they contact you. Is it an email, a phone call, a text message, a Facebook post? That actually happened to a client. How stupid is this creditor? We had a creditor publicly try to shame someone on Facebook. It's like, you can't do that, guys, after the fact. You can't even do it even before the fact, I don't think. But, this person had already filed a proposal and this lender is trying to shame them on Facebook. It's like, you moron, we've got a screenshot of you. Very bad move. Just goes to show how these people know nothing. It's absolutely amazing. People, you would think that people with money and people who are in the lending business know something about lending and the rules that apply to them, they're clueless. They're utterly clueless. Second mortgage lenders are the biggest bozos on earth, and I say that as a licensed mortgage agent. These guys don't have a clue the rules that apply to them and how things work, and it's unbelievable. I always lost my train of thought. So they're calling references. They do have to stop. If they won't stop, keep the diary. That way, at least you have a log of what was done. You're not just saying, "Well, they called me when." Well, I don't know. Okay, guys, screenshot your phone. It'll list everything. All the calls that have come in. And at times we've had to get paralegals involved or even lawyers. It rarely gets to that. Because if the clients follow instructions and just, tell these guys to buzz off or else, they will. Okay, these guys are pussies at the end of the day. Sorry for the harsh language, but they are. Okay, they're not tough guys. They're not strong. They just seem that way because they've got something over you, and they shout a lot. And they assume you don't know what's going on. And if you're not from Canada, they know you'll be intimidated. Okay, especially if you're from a country where you go to jail for this stuff. But they're actually weaklings when you push back. And we've had a few instances where we got paralegals to write letters pretty much saying, piss off or else. And it works. But you got to be diligent. You have to listen. You have to pay attention. You have to keep track of things. The other thing you can do is, amazingly, if they're calling you on your phone, nobody really has landlines these days. You probably have a cellular phone. Your cellular phone has this big red button that apparently when you push it, it hangs up. Now, my phone may differ from yours. I'm using a Samsung, okay, but you may use an iPhone or something else. But I'm pretty sure the red button is on every single phone. And if this guy is to you, there's a very simple solution. Instead of I know, it's over. Okay? Hang up. I have a client who is incapable of hanging up on these sharks. And I tell her, for crying out loud, oh, but Zach, they said they have a piece of paper that says I can't travel and they're going to get me deported. I'm like, tell them to show you the paper. Okay? It's just, let me see the piece of paper. They get, oh, look at that. They scrawled on a napkin. Like, guys, for crying out loud, look at who you're dealing with. So, look, I'm approaching the 13-minute mark here, and I'm just ranting at this point. Guys, number one, avoid sharks. Number two, if you've taken money from a shark or a high-interest lender, know that the same rules apply to them as everyone else. Let me help you out, okay? And please follow instructions, because if you do follow instructions, guys, it's glorious when you put these people in their place. It's wonderful, too, to watch them freak out on a Zoom meeting in court. Anyways, I've gone too long, but please know they're not any different than anyone else unless they are threatening violence, at which point, guys, you call the cops, okay? Have a good day.